Hello, here we are in the Kremlin, and this is Red Square, and behind me you see St. Basil's Cathedral. Here I am in Moscow, Russia. That's right. Last time I left you in Beijing, China, went on to the United States, then from there went to Paris, France, Kiev, Ukraine, and now I'm just arriving just today in Moscow, Russia, to begin a new production. Let me show you what the Lord did just this last month.
Last month, I had just arrived in Beijing, China, where I would be for a week with a delegation from Korea, led by none other than Mrs. Cho, who was spearheading negotiations with some universities to bring fine arts to China. The delegation was made up of some elders and their wives from Yoido Church, where Yonggi Cho is the pastor. Two other professors, Dr. Lee and Dr. Kim, were also in attendance, and I was the other delegate. In meeting with university committees, Mrs. Cho covered a range of topics, including the fine arts from a Western perspective. By introducing fine arts, I felt that I could broaden the education of the Chinese students to not only learn about the arts, but also about my beliefs as well. I had the opportunity to speak to and work with some Chinese dancers. It's amazing how bright and talented the Chinese are. Here's a little sample of how quickly they can adapt to learn American culture. I was proud of these Chinese students. China, with the upcoming Olympics planned in Beijing next year, is becoming more modern by the day, and yet it retains much of its beloved culture and decor. It also offers some amazing gastronomical fare, such as can be seen here. You can get just about anything on a stick, and I mean anything, including such tasty treats such as fried locust, or for the more daring, cocoon, and yes, scorpion. We had scorpion on a stick. If you're wondering what it tastes a lot like grasshopper. One of the highlights of my trip was making a visit to one of the underground churches. For obvious reasons, I'm not able to show much of the video for security purposes, but I was able to sneak this much footage. Mrs. Cho was able to speak to the church, and they were encouraged. I had the privilege of meeting many of the members who were very warm and hospitable. They fed us one of the largest meals I've ever seen. Please pray for the underground church in China. After I left China, I flew back to the United States just in time to be part of the anointed ministry of Tres Dias. I try to be as involved as I can with this amazing ministry, which touches men of all denominations with the love of Jesus. I was blessed to be a part of the team, and I worked with some pretty special brothers in Christ. Immediately after the men's weekend, I was blessed to have friends from 3 different countries who all came to the U.S. to visit me in Dallas. What a blessing. Charmaine Smith, the praise and worship leader of 10,000-member Durban Christian Center in South Africa. Victor Antorps, seen here with my missions pastor, Ralph Holland, is a pastor over 3 churches in Moldova. 4 Koreans, Austin, Carol, Gretel, and David, came to help me with my U.S. production, and finally I had the chance to see part of my family, Tina with husband Abel and Elijah in Austin, Texas. We drove together with friends and fellow missionaries, Ken and Marjorie Bell, to San Antonio to see the world-famous Alamo. San Antonio is famous for its beautiful and serene river walks, and we took advantage of the beauty and walked alongside, taking in all the beautiful scenery. We even had a chance to catch a boat tour of the city via the riverways. It was peaceful and a highlight to all of my foreign friends. But best of all, the food. San Antonio is also famous for its many wonderful Mexican restaurants. Just take a look at what one of the bakeries had to offer. Yes, they're every bit as delicious as they look. I think I sampled one of everything. On our way back to Dallas, we stopped to get pictures of the state capitol in Austin. It's an exact replica of the nation's capital, only that, true to Texas, it's a little bit bigger. Our state capitol was built 2 feet taller. Ah, Texans. Back in Dallas, it was time to get to work. Mind you, the men's weekend and the trip to San Antonio was all done in just 5 days. Marjorie and I went to buy material for an upcoming production in Korea. We bought yards and yards of material for costumes. I had a chance to see friends while in Dallas, such as Pastor Keith Kraft, shown here with Gary and Linda Marone. Dear friends Vladimir and Helen Starovero. Here I am with their children, Alyosha and Tanya. My dear friends and wonderful hosts, Paul and Brenda Platt, with their 2 sons, Parker and Ryan, and my 4 Korean friends. Of course, spending time with friend and from South Africa, Charmaine Smith. And lastly, seeing my friends, Josh and Sandy Payne. My Korean friends and I continue to work, preparing sets, and everyone was great about pulling their own weight. My Korean dream team is made up of a production manager, a stage manager, a props director, and 1 actor. So they were all pros at decorating and working on the set. We were almost ready for the show in Oklahoma. Having packed the truck in Dallas, we then drove to Norman, Oklahoma, where we would be doing the production. Everyone went immediately to work putting up backdrops and sets. We were in a beautiful theater there, and the setting was perfect for the production. It was as colorful and modern as the show, so I was excited to see all that the Lord would do over the weekend. We spent 3 days simply hanging backdrops and preparing the sets. This is a unique show called A View from the Edge, which boasts 21 different set changes. It's a huge production, although the cast is very, very small. We opened on Friday night, and the crowd was enthusiastic and loved every scene. Producer and actor, motivational speaker, and yes, my friend from my church, Mark Cassetta, has an amazing ability to keep the audience spellbound. In between the scenes, my crew was working to put up the next set, while Mark and the other actors changed into their next costumes. It's a 3-day endurance test, but we were up for it. Entertaining, dramatic, hilarious, or sometimes emotional, the scenes are made up of real-life scenarios with a hard-hitting message, which challenges the audience. The show was a hit, and for our 8th year in a row, it was a huge success. On Monday, with the show behind us, we packed the truck, raced back to Dallas, where we unloaded the truck. I said goodbye to my Korean friends, and after hugging and saying goodbye to my hosts, I dashed for the airport and said goodbye to the U.S. for the next 6 months. Flying overnight, on Tuesday, I arrived in Paris, where I had to overnight before I could continue on to my next destination. I would stay in a French hotel across the street from Gare du Nord, a famous French crossroads. France is filled with all kinds of ambiance. I mean, where else can you find an accordion player playing French music for the riders of the subway? Having an afternoon to myself, I enjoyed the beautiful weather in Paris and let myself unwind after the hectic schedule in the U.S. I was able to see the Champs-Élysées and the Arc de Triomphe, which Napoleon had built to commemorate all of France's victories. Of course, like any self-respecting tourist, I had to take in the Eiffel Tower. It's my 4th time to see it, and it's as awe-inspiring the 4th time as the 1st. Truly, there is no place like Paris. I loved my short but very restful time here. Well, onward on my voyage. Au revoir, Paris. I flew and arrived in Kiev, Ukraine on Wednesday and spent the day with friends like Ruslan and his precious daughter, dear friend and an elder at 10,000 member Victory Church, Denise, friend and rector from Tres Dias, Gleb Kotovitsky, and finally dear and longtime friends Yuri and Tanya Gorzi. It was a short but wonderful time in Kiev. On Thursday, I flew on to Moscow, Russia, where I would spend the afternoon in one of Moscow's popular parks, where everyone loves to relax before catching a night train to Kirov. I took in Red Square, Lenin's tomb, St. Basil's Cathedral, and the Goom, the oldest and the original shopping mall, and one of the beautiful fountains near Red Square. Near the Kremlin, I was able to catch the changing of the guards at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Finally, it was time for me to run to my train and catch it to my final destination, Kirov, Russia. It's been 5 days of travel, but I've loved every minute.
as you can see, it's been a busy month. We've had a wonderful time here in Moscow, but it's on to Kiev, Russia, where we begin our next production. Please keep us in prayer as we begin the production in Kiev, that souls will come to the kingdom. Well, that wraps up this version of Cornerstone Presents. For more information, you can log on to www.cornerstonearts.com. For Cornerstone Arts, I'm Richard Montez.